I watched the video of my stepsister and my husband rolling around in bed with a blank expression on my face, scared I might accidentally laugh out loud. After all, being able to ruin the lives of the two people I hate the most all at once? That's too exciting to contain. My stepsister doesn't even know that the man she's so eager to steal is completely a facade I put up. When I got home, I bumped into my husband, Mark, and my stepsister coming out of the side bedroom, clothes all disheveled. Mark hasn't matured a bit over the years. All his courage is spent on taking off his pants. Seeing me now, his face turned white, and he couldn't say a word. Compared to the ruthless energy he had back then when he forced me to get an abortion and then got tangled up with other women, he's softened a lot. He doesn't have the guts to freeload as he did before. Linda, on the other hand, clung to my arm and said sweetly, "Mark was just helping me with my homework. Don't get the wrong idea." The tone is just like before. The difference is, this time, the Mark she's scheming to steal is a gift I prepared for her. Linda's flirtatious eyes weren't even looking at me. She was teasing Mark, her spaghetti strap top barely covering the essentials, exposing a slim waist that kept twisting slightly. I watched as Mark's face turned from white to red, with hints of white flushing through the red. Finally, I broke the silence, playfully tapping Linda on the head. "What nonsense. You've got exams coming up. Focus on your studies. I'll go make you two some good food to nourish you." Linda frowned, wanting to say something but held back when Mark glared at her. She snorted softly and walked into the side room, her long legs straight and slender, beckoning to Mark with a finger. "Mark, come on in." The relationship was so obviously improper, but like an oblivious fool, I urged Mark to go over, and I dutifully went to the kitchen to cook. Mark hesitated for a moment, then followed me, carefully closing the kitchen door behind him before cautiously speaking, "Maybe we should let Linda go back home? You know my skills, I'll just be wasting her time here." Mark and I had a college romance, and 2 years after graduation, we got married and moved back to my hometown. My home is almost half a map away from his. His parents were mad at him for moving so far away, and they gave us nothing, only showing up briefly at the wedding. But being the well-read, understanding daughter-in-law I didn't mind these trivial matters. I thoughtfully took out my savings, rented the most luxurious villa in town, and rented a luxury car parked in the basement. Over the years of our relationship, I pampered Mark into laziness and arrogance, with no workplace etiquette at all. He couldn't stick to a job for more than half a month before complaining about the workload. In less than 3 months, he switched 4 jobs. Luckily, I pulled some strings to get Mark a temporary job at a local government office with a $1,000 monthly salary. Though the pay was low, it was an easy job, and from the outside, it seemed respectable, fitting perfectly with Mark's lazy yet prideful nature. When I brought Mark home decked out in fake designer brands, and told my father and stepmother that Mark came from a well-off family and passed the civil service exam, I saw the jealousy and desire in their eyes just as I'd hoped. When I found out Linda was preparing for the civil service exam, I often took Mark home, driving the Cayenne. Even if we brought no gifts, my father and stepmother always welcomed us with smiles, and Linda's original envious gaze slowly changed. Seeing the determined look in her eyes and her intentional closeness to Mark, I knew it was almost time. To increase the bait, I frequently posted on Twitter about the Chanel bags I bought last week, Dior clothes this week, and the plane tickets to France next week, all targeted exclusively for Linda to see at the beginning of this month. Linda couldn't hold back any longer and used the exam as an excuse to move in. Seeing her unapologetic glances around the villa, I smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. If I made Linda go home now, how would my plan unfold? I didn't say anything for a moment. Mark got anxious. "I don't know anything about the exams. I can't teach Linda. It's almost time. Let her go home and sign up for a class." I almost laughed out loud. Linda used the excuse of seeking his guidance for the civil service exam to move in almost a month ago. And now he realizes he's not helpful? I paused, sighed, and said, "You know how my relationship with the family is. It's only just starting to improve. I don't want to ruin it again." I reassured him, "And you have to believe in yourself. If you weren't teaching her well, she would have left by now. If she's still here, It means you've been teaching her well. I cheered him on. Keep at it. You're the best. Mark still looked a bit awkward, but at least my encouragement calmed him down. He scanned my face, finding nothing but foolish trust. I love you, he said. Relieved, Mark flashed a broad smile and stepped forward to hug me. I dodged, shyly pointing at the glass kitchen door. She's home. Watch it. Mark smiled more reassuringly. I'll go teach Linda now. You carry on. He walked briskly into the side room, and I even heard the bedroom door lock behind him. I indifferently continued preparing a nourishing meal in the kitchen for them. 2 indulgent months flew by. During this time, Linda hinted countless times, but I played dumb, maintaining my image as a good wife and loving sister. Linda even sat on Mark's lap right in front of me, but I just laughed, saying she's still as affectionate as when she was a child. Even now as a grown-up with my indulgence, Mark lived an almost divine life. I handled everything outside, and he had a mistress brightly hidden at home. A friend called me. Lily, did Mark win the lottery or find a new job? He's been glowing lately. No, just in a good mood, I guess. Has Mark been any trouble for you over there? A sigh came from the other end of the phone. Not really trouble. Our place does need some temp workers. But he's a grown man making just over $1,000 a month. What good is that? He looks so complacent, with no ambition at all. You need to push him more. Otherwise, you'll end up exhausted. He bought some books and plans to study. I just take care of him. Mark was so fortunate in his previous life to marry someone like you. He was a decent-looking guy when he first came, but he's put on almost 40 pounds in a few months. He must be doing nothing at home but eating good food. I love him no matter what, but for his health, he needs to work out. Let's go shopping and grab a meal together sometime, my treat. After hanging up, I set up a delicious dinner and called them to eat. Linda, what's wrong? You look upset. Mark's face is dark too, I asked. Linda snapped, throwing her chopsticks on the table. What's this? Every dish is top-notch, making it irresistible. I didn't understand. What's wrong? Aren't these your favorites? You make everything so greasy. Don't you know it's making me break out? Linda's face turned red as she yelled. I glanced at Linda and was secretly satisfied with the progress. 4 meals a day plus a midnight snack, all with meat. They studied while I made high-sugar cakes. The once delicate girl now had a face much rounder, covered in greasy pimples. Her waist couldn't fit into a mini skirt anymore. She wore the large-size pajamas I bought for her, her hair disheveled. Even the grandma from downstairs looked cleaner and more vibrant on her nightly walk. Why are you yelling? Your sister works hard on these meals. What's wrong with that? Mark hit the table, his face cold. Have you helped with any housework since you got here? You don't do anything and snap at your sister all the time. Where are your manners? Now you're scolding me? Linda was furious, her eyes full of hate. What could they feel for each other? One wanted to marry into wealth, the other was lusting after beauty. Before, their affection was sweet and tender. Now, both could see the other getting uglier by the day. What feelings could survive that? I kept my head down. The hormones had all been fed to them in batches. The results were gratifying. The exams are soon. You should go home. Mark's face was cold as he told her to leave. Cold, selfish, and lowly, these qualities were in his bones. You're kicking me out? You promised to marry me. Linda couldn't hold back, shouting directly. Mark panicked and looked at me, yelling at Linda, "What nonsense are you talking? I only have feelings for your sister." Linda's oily face was angry, her whole body trembling. Linda, if you have issues with Mark, tell me. I'll scold him for you. Don't say crazy things. I frowned and advised. Lily, are you that naive or just plain stupid? The first day I came, we slept in your bed. Linda laughed crazily at me, her disdainful eyes full of triumph. I slept in your bed, with your husband, and had you running around like a maid. Do you know when you were doing housework, your husband was holding me, saying I was prettier? I pursed my lips without speaking. A loud slap landed on Linda's face, stunning her. Mark's face was dark. Stop slandering me. How can you compare to your sister? Look in the mirror and see what you look like now. Mark knew his current comfort depended on me, so he didn't dare anger me. You hit me? You dare to hit me? Linda crazily grabbed a bowl from the table and aimed it at Mark's head. She was no match for Mark's strength, who easily subdued her and threw her aside. Lily, you're just going to watch him hit me? Linda, lying on the floor crying, only dared to vent at me. She cried for a long time. Mark looked indifferent, ignoring her, and I, acting confused, did not react. She got up and ran out with her phone in tears. Though she seduced me, I've always stayed pure and never touched her. Today, I rejected her again, so she defamed me out of spite. Mark squatted in front of me, showing loyalty. Linda's been spoiled since childhood. Maybe she's jealous of our happiness. Don't stoop to her level, eat up. Now that she's gone, food will be wasted. Shouldn't have made so much. Mark, relieved, pounded his chest with a grin. Don't worry, I'll finish everything. Watching Mark gobble down the food, grinning like a 200-pound child, I sincerely smiled. Right after cleaning up, the door was banged loudly. Long-lost stepmom Wendy burst in with my dad and Linda, occupying the sofa. Mark knew it was bad news as soon as he heard the knock and wanted to hide. I wouldn't let him. I made him stay in the living room with me. Wendy, hands on her hips and legs crossed, sneered, "How do you plan to handle this?" "What do you mean?" I played dumb. "Stop pretending. You ruined Linda. If you don't give me an explanation today, it's not over." Wendy spat in rage, her foot on the table. Linda sat trembling. In the past, her tearful look might invoke sympathy. Now, round and large, crying just made her look like she needed more strength. I glanced at Mark. He panicked, waving his hands. "Don't accuse me. I did nothing." Linda jerked her head up, tears on her double chin, eyes cold. "Mark, you think I don't have proof? Look at this." Linda took out her phone and played a video. It was undeniable proof of them rolling around together. And it wasn't just any typical interaction. They were role-playing. Linda was struggling, saying no repeatedly, while Mark, like a beast, used force. Now it wasn't just a question of ethics. If Linda accused Mark of rape with this video, Mark would definitely do some jail time. Mark's eyes were wide with shock, gritting his teeth. "You set me up." Linda's eyes flashed with a hint of satisfaction before turning pitiful. "I'm just scared you won't want me. I really want to be with you." I was about to break down and cry, shaking as I pointed at Mark. "You've been lying to me all this time?" Mark's expression was twisted with turmoil, caught squarely in a tight spot. My dad, with a frown and a steady tone, said, "The situation is what it is now. Mark has to take responsibility for Linda. You two should get a divorce." For nearly 20 years, I had lived under his commands. He used to order me to give up my room, clothes, snacks, and even made me the family maid. Now he was ordering me to give up my marriage. "Dad, I'm your daughter too. Why is my marriage being destroyed like this? You don't even give me a word of comfort and instead favor her?" My eyes were filled with tangled pain and disappointment. My dad was stunned, then grew impatient. "Your real mom died early, and you've been raised by Aunt Wendy since you were little. It's your duty to be filial to her and to let your sister have your things." All the unfairness was known to my dad, and he allowed it. In his mind, I owed Wendy and her daughter my whole life. Everything I had should naturally go to Linda. "Mark, what do you think? Do you really want a divorce?" I bit my lip, forcing my eyes to redden. "We've shared so many years together. If you sincerely admit your mistake, I'll forgive you. We had promised to spend our lives together. Don't leave me, okay? We can start over. No one will ever love you as I do." Mark said nothing, but I knew his confidence was built on my endless giving and leniency. To him, I was already a backup at such a difficult moment. He'd surely give up on someone who would always forgive him and not hold grudges. "Mark, I'm pregnant with your child." Linda threw another bombshell, her eyes showing determination. Wendy sneered, her gaze filled with condemnation. "Lily, can you bear to break up their family of 3? The most important thing is to know your place. If you step back willingly, you can still keep some dignity." I lowered my eyelashes, masking the coldness in my eyes. She had wrecked my parents' marriage and driven my mom to depression. After 20 years, she now let her daughter ruin my family. Their shamelessness was deeply embedded in their DNA. "Linda, if you let go, you will be a good daughter to Dad too." My dad offered a bit of sweetness like a favor. Mark grabbed my arm and dragged me to a bedroom, negotiating awkwardly. "Honey, this situation is really bad for me. If Linda accuses me, my life will be ruined." If he had any moral baseline, would he be in such an awkward situation? I pretended to be sorrowful. "Can't we not get divorced?" "I can wait for you, that's impossible." Mark's face showed a trace of impatience, but he restrained himself to persuade me. "Trust me, I have no feelings for Linda now. I get disgusted seeing her. But I have to agree with her temporarily. Just bear with it, we'll have a fake divorce. Once it's over, I'll marry you again." "Well, okay." Reluctantly, I nodded. Mark's face lit up with relief, thinking he had me firmly in his grasp. Once out of the room, Mark immediately declared, "I'll take responsibility for Linda and give her and the child a home." Linda joyfully jumped into his arms, not forgetting to give me a provocative look. Wendy and my dad also smiled from their hearts. The 4 of them were joyous, making me feel like an outsider. "But if you want me to sign the divorce papers, I need half of the house." I spoke coldly. Wendy currently lives in the house that my parents bought together despite its old age. It's in the city center, surrounded by top schools. It would sell for at least $30,000 per square meter. "You're dreaming." Wendy instantly got angry. "It was bought by my mom, why shouldn't I get it? Give it or not, your call. Whether I sign or not, is up to me." My face remained cold. My dad slammed the table in anger. "If we sell the house, where will your mom and I live? Your wings have grown strong. I can't control you anymore, can I?" He wanted to hit me again, but I was no longer the weak and obedient child I used to be. "If you want everyone to know, go ahead. Let the neighbors and Mark's colleagues find out." I smirked. Linda panicked. She wanted to be a wealthy lady with no worries. How could she face such a situation? Mark couldn't afford such a stain. "You can have half the money, but you must leave with nothing else." Linda's calculations were audible. The current well-decorated villa we live in is worth at least $5 million, and the Cayenne in the garage costs $15 million. Compared to these, the old house's value is nothing. I didn't care about these, I just wanted what was rightfully my mom's. I smiled. Linda would never imagine that Mark and I had no shared property at all. During the time the house was being sold, Linda's family of 3 moved in, while I stayed away. When they contacted me again, they had prepared the money and the agreement. The agreement was straightforward, so I signed it without hesitation. Wendy had initially wanted to withhold some money, but I had already consulted with a real estate agent and knew the exact sale price. I received every penny owed. "I have things to do today. I'll handle the divorce registration another day when I'm free." With the agreement in hand, they weren't in a hurry and didn't stop me. I sat on the thickly carpeted bay window, holding a steaming cup of milk tea. Sunlight streamed over me, dispelling some of the chilly. Already quit my job here. Now I'm just chilling at home. I don't need to serve a whole family, and I don't need to put on a show. It's a rare chance to relax. But, it's not the end of the story yet. These days have been such a hassle. There are too many things at home, and Mark can't work right now. I explained everything in a roundabout way. Don't be too sad about his situation. With his kind of character, we wouldn't dare keep him. He certainly won't have a good ending. Having such a good wife and still messing around, he really is heartless. My classmates stood up for me, trashed Mark at work, and got him fired. A phone call shattered the peace. Lily, did you not renew the lease? The landlord came today asking for rent, saying it's already a month overdue. When you get a chance, please go pay the rent. Mark's voice was sneaky. He hadn't told Linda and them the truth yet. Do you not have any money? I replied nonchalantly. Did you tell them about my work situation? I got fired because of that, and now I don't have a job. Where would I get money from? Aren't you old classmates with so-and-so? Ask him to let me go back, or find me a new job. I laughed. I put on such a show back then just to save face and let them see I'm doing well. Do you think I still have any face to maintain with them? After hanging up quickly, I added them all to a group chat and sent them the contracts for renting the house and car. The contracts are up, and someone's coming to pick up the stuff. If you still need them, you can contact the following people to continue renting. I thoughtfully included a few phone numbers. The barrage of messages in the group chat nearly made me laugh out loud. Lily, what do you mean? The villa and house were rented? Don't play dead, talk to me. Linda screamed hysterically. What's going on? Hurry back and explain this to me. You even lied to your own family. Do you have any conscience? Get our money back. You ungrateful little brat, I should have thrown you in the orphanage back then. You bitch, just like your mom. Why haven't you died sooner? Listening to Wendy's curses, my previously calm heart was instantly enraged. Sneering, I threw out another bombshell. Linda must need a lot of company being pregnant. Well, Mark's free now and has plenty of time. You guys don't know, right? Mark was part of a batch of temp workers laid off by the company. The group chat went silent. They didn't expect Mark's job status was fake. A flood of voice messages came crashing in, but not a word from Mark. I changed my phone number and deleted their contacts, leaving only this group chat. Every day, watching their constant cursing became repetitive. But the surveillance footage of their endless arguing was quite entertaining. When Linda realized the man she's been desperately seducing and fawning over wasn't wealthy and was just a useless leech supported by a woman, she almost miscarried in her rage. You filthy pig, how do you even have the nerve to live in this world? Just die already. Die. Linda screamed, wild-haired, clutching her barrel-like belly with a twisted expression. I knew from the start you weren't going to amount to anything. You're a worthless scumbag. Did you and Lily conspire against us to ruin our family? Speak up. Why are you playing dead? You useless dog. My dad and Wendy berated Mark like an animal and even got physical. At first, Mark didn't dare fight back, feeling guilty, but eventually, he couldn't take it and hit back. If Linda hadn't seduced me, I'd be happy with Lily now. You guys ruined my happiness. I may be useless, but at least I planted a seed in your family. Look at Linda, fat and ugly as she is. Could there be anyone else blind enough to take her? You should thank me for getting her pregnant. Linda's family lunged at Mark in fury. In the chaos, Linda was shoved, and her belly hit the table edge, causing her to lose the 5-month pregnancy in an instant. While they were angry and grief-stricken, it was obvious they were also relieved. Now knowing the truth, there was no way they'd let Linda marry Mark. They wanted to take it out on me but had no way to reach me. Desperate to shake off Mark, he clung to them like a barnacle, impossible to get rid of. If Linda's family didn't support him, Mark would follow them everywhere, even squatting at the gate of their new rental, yelling about how she was his mistress and slept with him behind her sister's back. After they left the villa, I returned to clean up and erase all traces of myself. Finally, I spoke up in the group chat, asking how their lives were now. Without the surveillance, I couldn't see their chaos, which was a pity. Lily, you bastard. You should have been strangled at birth. You're just a curse sent to ruin us. Of course, I came back for revenge, not to repay any kindness. Lily, how could you be so cruel? Why did you set me up like this? You're not human. Laughing, I replied, who told you to keep taking my things? But we're sisters. How can you treat me like this? Aren't you afraid of divine punishment? Once they had cursed enough, my dad finally regained some sanity and began talking normally. Just take Mark away, won't you? You liked him, right? Go live your life with him and stop letting him bother Linda. She's depressed and can't handle any more stress. He even sent a photo of Linda looking deathly pale, hoping to stir my sympathy. When Wendy grabbed my neck and called me a bitch, made me sleep on the balcony in the dead of winter, when Linda took my room, my mom's only keepsake, the money I got from picking trash, even my college acceptance letter nearly torn apart, my dad never spoke up. Now he wants me to pity Linda? No way, I just feel satisfied. I'll give you your husband back, but you need to return that half of the house payment. I've always felt out of place with their family because I'm too proud. But Mark, he fits right in. I can make Mark stop bothering you guys, but you'll have to give me half of the money you have. I explained my terms slowly. In your dreams. And now you're asking for more? If you have the guts, come here now, and I won't beat you to death. Wendy was afraid I wouldn't listen to her voice messages, so she sent a long string of insults instead. But my dad started playing the emotional card. The house is gone now, and all I have left is my burial money. Are you going to leave me with nothing? Your mom doesn't work, and Linda still needs to see a psychologist. How are we supposed to live? Since elementary school, I've been collecting waste and selling scrap after school to scrape together my tuition. In high school, I attended classes during the day, worked as a waiter at a restaurant in the evening, and still came home to clean and do laundry at night. If I can get through those times, why can't you? I let out a cold laugh. You have 1 hour to decide, give me the money or keep dealing with Mark. Your choice. Fine. We'll give you the money, just take that bastard away. Linda shouted, her mental defenses clearly shattered. With the agreement settled, I finally reappeared in front of Mark. Mark's chubby body was hunched over on a park bench eating takeout. He probably feared Linda would move, so he stayed close. His greasy, untidy hair and the stench of his unwashed body, he hadn't bathed in at least half a month. With tears in my eyes, I said with trembling lips, I'm here to take you home. Mark was stunned for a few seconds, then overjoyed. I nodded, we can be together again. Everything I said to you before was just to make Linda leave. I didn't mean any of it. I want you to know, I'm the one who loves you the most in the world. I smiled softly. Mark, down and out for so long, finally realized he could only be well fed and clothed by staying with me. I took a cab with him to a rundown neighborhood, and Mark followed me, feeling like he was in a dream. I explained, I disappeared for a while to get rid of my stepmother's control over me. They won't bother us anymore. Mark's eyes turned red. Lily, you're the best in the world. You'll never abandon me. I'll work hard to lose weight and find a job so you can hold your head high. I believe in you. My tone remained gentle, as if nothing had happened between us in the past few months. The new place I rented was in a non-gated, unmanaged neighborhood. It was a 40 square meter northwest-facing unit on the 7th floor with no elevator, warm in the summer and cold in the winter. Mark was exhausted by the time he climbed to the 4th floor, his determination already dissipating. Frowning, he asked, why are we living in such a dump? Didn't you get more than $1 million from your dad? Honey, I also want a home of our own. I put that money and all my savings into buying a house. But it's off plan, and it won't be ready until the year after next. I shrugged helplessly, this is all we can afford right now. Mark dragged his half-dead body into the apartment and collapsed on the bed, too lazy even to shower. Where are you going? Mark asked, insecure as he saw me about to leave. Where do you think? I got a part-time job. I work during the day and wait tables at night. Otherwise, we won't have money to decorate when the house is ready. Mark relaxed, don't worry. I'll get myself together. I comforted him briefly before hurrying back to the hotel. The apartment was stuffy, hot, and smelled awful, perfect for Mark to stay in. From the surveillance footage, I saw that in the hours I was gone, Mark hadn't gotten up at all. He just grabbed the snacks and bread I left by the bed whenever he was hungry and watched videos on his phone when he was bored. Mark had become a lazy, gluttonous person with no intention of getting back on his feet, only wanting to barely survive. The video showed he might have thought about going out, but the height of 7 floors made him give up. Last time, climbing those stairs had left him exhausted like a dead pig for half a month before he recovered. He called me, asking why I hadn't returned, and I made up an excuse. Eventually, I stopped answering his calls altogether. At first, he was a bit panicked when he couldn't find me, but since he never had to worry about food, water, or electricity, he didn't care anymore. Lying around every day with someone feeding him, that was all he aspired to. Mark had ballooned to almost 300 pounds, with high cholesterol, diabetes, hypertension, gout, and arthritis. No part of his body was in good shape. One day, I finally answered the phone when Mark was in significant pain, saying, "Honey, my heart hurts so much, it feels like I'm going to die. How could this happen? Come downstairs quickly, I'll be back to take you to the hospital." My voice was concerned and urgent. I slowly packed up my things before taking a cab to get him. In the end, Mark was carried into the hospital by the paramedics. He was so fat he couldn't see the stairs, and he broke his leg on the 5th floor, rolling down one level before stopping. He had intracranial bleeding, almost missing the optimal time for surgery. I acted very relieved and grateful, while my heart laughed coldly. Why want him dead? Living like this is more interesting. The surgery to address Mark's critical injuries was successful, and I signed off on amputating his broken leg without hesitation. Looking at the half-dead Mark on the hospital bed, my long-held frustrations dissipated, and I lost interest in continuing to deal with him. I called Mark's parents, telling them to bring enough money for his medical expenses and stay by his side. Though they hadn't contacted him for a year, they still cared about their son and rushed over by plane that night. "You said that man is my son, Mark?" Mark's mother's shock overwhelmed her sadness. I nodded silently. "You've ruined my son. I disagreed when you took him far away. Just 1 year, and you've turned him into this." She cried and tried to hit me. I grabbed her outstretched hand and pushed her away, my face cold. I found Mark his job, provided for him, gave him food and shelter. I have nothing to apologize to him for. He is lazy, and even committed infidelity. We signed divorce papers, and I even rented him a place, covered his meals, and took him to the hospital when he was sick. I've done more than enough. The crowd was stunned. I am beautiful and well-dressed. Looking at the mess inside, it was obvious we didn't match. People assumed he was the rich one inside. They didn't know I was the one who was always giving. Mark's parents couldn't argue against my pile of bills. Mark's parents even approached me. "We don't oppose you being with Mark. We just hope you two can live well together in the future." They still didn't get it. They thought I couldn't live without Mark. Looking at my expressionless face, they added more. "You can come back with us to our hometown, live together, and we can help with the kids once you have them." Could Mark even manage that now? I held back my laughter, not asking. It was my last bit of courtesy. "You two have been in love for many years. No one can compare to that. You won't find that kind of deep emotion again. You should cherish it." I couldn't help but say, "Back then, you didn't say that when I was with Mark, did you? Didn't you never actually accept me as your daughter-in-law? You even refused to give the 3 gold gifts as a bride price. I guess I just don't meet your standards. Wish you all the best in finding the ideal daughter-in-law." Not waiting for them to continue with useless talk, I left directly, preparing for an official divorce once Mark sobered up. Of course, Mark didn't want to let me go. How could he leave the one who endlessly served him? The most disgusting part is he tried to play the emotional card, with his eyes gleaming with fake affection. I laughed. Did he think I hired my lawyer for fun? If he didn't agree, it was useless. The court would make the decision. Because of my toxic family, I craved love and felt alone. My mom had just passed away, and my dad immediately married Wendy, taking me along as baggage. My dad thought I was a burden and treated me poorly. Wendy was even worse. Denying me food was common, and beatings were routine. After she had Linda, Wendy's behavior got worse. To go to school, I picked up trash and did all the house chores. Still, it didn't save me from beatings. From elementary to high school, I was like a wandering beggar, disconnected from classmates. I was too busy with studies and part-time jobs to build relationships. Everyone thought I was cold. I might have seemed cold and not good with people, but if someone was kind to me, I easily gave them my friendship, even love. Mark was the one who easily opened the door to my heart. That summer during sophomore year, after finishing a part-time job, I got caught in a heavy rain without an umbrella, running for shelter. When I heard a notification, I thought a student had a question for me. "The rain is heavy today. Did you bring an umbrella, Mark?" I knew he was a classmate, but we never really interacted. I replied, "No, I didn't." He quickly responded, "You must be soaked, right? Make sure to change out of the wet clothes, and drink some warm water. Don't get sick." I stared at my phone, feeling a bit of sweet warmth. Since my mom died, no one had reminded me to bring an umbrella or not eat ice cream in cold weather. When roommates talked about their parents' reminders, I almost cried from envy. I wanted to be cared for too. I was easy to move back then. A daily greeting or sharing a funny video made him walk into my heart. In the library, he handed me a warm milk tea and asked if I wanted to be his girlfriend. I held back for a second before agreeing. I liked him. I was even so naive that I was happy when I got pregnant by him. I touched my belly, thinking if the baby would look more like me or him. I imagined where I'd take the baby, giving them everything I ever wanted in my childhood. The money I saved from part-time jobs was spent when we moved in together. Mark's monthly allowance of $2,000 was barely enough for food and rent. We moved into a dingy basement and cooked noodles with a small pot. To save money, I always gave him the one egg I boiled. When he told me to abort the baby, I got angry with him for the first time. "Be reasonable, okay? You see how bad this basement is for you to rest in. Eating just boiled noodles every day, you're not getting any nutrients, and neither will the baby. Let's wait until we're in better condition to welcome a new life, alright? You can't want the baby to suffer right from birth, can you?" He convinced me, and I tearfully went for the abortion. Lying alone in that dark basement, I couldn't stop crying. The physical pain was secondary. My heart ached so much I could barely breathe. I killed the baby I always wanted. The day after the abortion, Mark argued with me. "It's just an abortion, no need to be so dramatic." Lying there crying, not even doing housework. "Do you know how annoying you are?" Holding the blanket, I was too weak and hoarse to argue with him. Mark didn't come back for 5 days. Though I was mad he wasn't caring, I missed him. He was the closest person to me. Without him, I had no one. On the 7th day after the abortion, I dressed up and went to find him at school. In just a month, everything felt different. I went to the basketball court where he often hung out. I saw him playing around with a girl, smiling in a way I'd never seen before. I went crazy and ran to confront him. But he told that girl we had already broken up a long time ago. When it was just the two of us, Mark said, "Stop clinging to me. We're history. So, you only made me abort our child because you had someone new?" Mark's eyes flickered guiltily, then he said in a particularly impatient tone, "You better not tell anyone about this, or you'll be the one who loses out. Do you even know what your uterus looks like now? You don't want everyone to know you're a piece of trash, do you?" His harsh words nearly made me lose it and go down with him. Everything I held dear, what did it mean to him? How could he use such vile words to hurt me? How could he use such dirty tactics to insult me? He ran off, and with my body so weak, I only walked a few steps before I was sweating profusely and squatting on the ground. The blinding sunlight made my tears and sweat mix and run down together. I lay on the scorching hot track, barely having the strength to get up again. Was it worth ruining my life over such a scumbag? I'm only 22. I've overcome so many hardships over the years, should my life be tripped up by this one obstacle? I used all my strength to get up, wiped away my tears, and sealed off this humiliation. I went back to my studies, worked even harder, just to forget that disgrace. I never expected Mark to come back and try to get back together. He came to apologize. He said he was under a lot of pressure at the time and didn't want to hurt me. He even explained that the girl was just a friend. I had already seen through his cowardly and selfish nature, so I ignored him. He blocked me a few times and asked, then gave up. Later, I accidentally came across his Facebook. Even though I still love you, I've learned to endure. I'm not just waiting for you, I'm also moving forward. I still miss you, but it's okay, I will slowly forget. If you turn back, I'll hold you tight. If you don't, I will start over. That day, I also saw Linda's Facebook. They were preparing to sell my mom's house and move to a better neighborhood. I gripped the pen until it broke, my hatred almost overflowing. Why can Mark easily start a new relationship? Why can he shamelessly act all deep and emotional? Why can he start over without any consequences? In our relationship, why was I the only one bearing the bitter fruit? To him, those painful days were just an exaggerated joke. When he's with another woman, he won't think of me. He'll just dismiss it as a youthful mistake and erase everything. And me? Even if I find someone I truly love in the future, I still have to answer to the doctor about the previous pregnancy during prenatal checkups. I'll always be reminded of those nearly deadly painful experiences. Yet Linda and her family are getting a better life by using my mom's property at this time. Why do those three wicked people get a new life, while I, struggling through life, should suffer? Why does Linda get to live like a princess while I live like a dog? It's not fair, really not fair. Everyone wants a new start. Fine, but only after they pay the price. I used marriage as bait, lured him in, just to throw him into a pit of no return. And Linda will also pay for her greed and vanity. My plan wasn't foolproof if Mark had any remorse, if Linda had any moral baseline, if Mark had any ambition, if Linda had any shame, this plan wouldn't have worked so smoothly. But unfortunately, or luckily, they weren't wronged at all. I finally left my most striking mark in his world. The year I divorced Mark, I was 28, in the prime of my life, with countless beautiful things waiting for me on the day we got the divorce certificate. I sincerely told Mark, who was full of ailments and whose future seemed bleak, I hope we can both start over and do better from now on. Later, I heard Linda was taken back to our rural hometown by my dad and married an honest man. But that honest man loved to drink and would hit her when he got drunk. Wendy divorced my dad over the house. Mark, missing a leg and covered in illnesses, had to go back to live with his parents. However, his pampered and lazy attitude made his parents resent him, and he was eventually sent to the cheapest care facility.